Okay, solo practice. 24th of June, 2020. Um, well, had some things to think about after talking. After conversations and watching some response videos to what I posted yesterday. Uh, Couple of things. So, um, there was some question at one point from at least one person about why I was still working with this profile that kept the blade almost ahead of the buckler when, so much of what we do, would keep it behind. And having it behind allows for some of these things to be nice and easy. I was somewhat specifically trying to work with the couple of variants we see where, this is still where it was, but instead of having this out, for some cases it's shown farther back, like it's covering the armpit hole rather than reaching. There was another question, we were talking about that arched back, right? So was it this or this? One thing that I definitely noted was that in at least one case, if I was forward leaned but twisted, you could almost see things as if my back looked arched if I was in 2D, which could be at least a partial explanation for the plates. Links to dance also potentially make sense. But one thing that also struck me in the various responses is the way the rising cut from the offhand side is handled in different buckler systems. Right? If I was in 133, right, we see prima or first position, right, which is held here. Right, and the same thing shown this way. Or priest special underarm, right, shown more like this. And both of these lead to a very strong cut upward from the inside. Now, Sean talked a little bit about Chingaro Porta de Ferro Larga, right, where we were, or Porta de Ferro Larga, where we're down here, right, as opposed to the Stretta version. Largo, and this, right, especially if I'm here, right, this allows a very strong turn and a good cut. What I was thinking about and playing with, the problem with that is in Bolognese, it's very difficult to get to that starting position. There's only a limited number of ways we get there. Really, we end up down here with the completion of a cut from, from our strong side down to here. Now, maybe this is okay. I mean, we certainly see this in Georgian, right? Where if I'm in here, pop, pop, or in the single hand variant, right? I cut, I roll through, I cut, I come up, I cut, right? Our three cuts with the clear. And we could do this very Bolognese, right? Come here once, roll through twice, right? Down to Porta de Ferro, Larga, right? And then come back with it, or throw the false edge. These are valid, definitely so. And they do work with an extended buckler. 133 does this, Georgian does this. Most often, what I see from people playing Bolognese is that fixed extended buckler, but I don't see a lot of this. I don't see a lot of play from down here. And in a sense, that makes sense. As we move to consecutively bigger shields, right, from here to the rotella or the imbracciatura, this whole area down here may be covered. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to put my sword here, right? With rotella in the pre-destreza Spanish or vulgar destreza Spanish tradition, we see a handful of positions, right, where the rotella is held here, right, and I might have my point down like this, closing off a line, up, closing off a line, right? I can have the same thing rolled over, right, and be reached, over here, and so forth, where I've wrapped. And we do see a little bit of this in Marazzo. We see some guards held with the rotella square across the body in the middle, and the sword held, low into the outside to play around the large shield. Yet the middle of the body is covered. So different things to be thinking about. And in this situation, being down here where I'm trapped by a larger shield doesn't do me a whole lot of good. And that may be one reason why we see that being somewhat avoided. Some of it may also just be me very much focused on the straddle guards and cutting from them. How do I make each of the cuts from a point forward guard? And, coming out, and if I'm point forward and I want to make a rising cut, I must rotate in front of my buckler, right? If I'm extended and I'm point forward and I want to make that rising cut, my arm's in the way. So to make that, I must pass in front of the buckler, which does leave my arm somewhat exposed. How do we avoid that? I point forward, I thrust, and I want to make the rising cut. Right? I can come in front and punch back with it. Right? If I'm out here and I do this, and I want to make this, I can make a high rising cut. That I'm not sure does a whole lot. Up here and I come. But again, my hand is still rather exposed. I can't do this safely from behind the buckler, right? Up here, I'm not staying behind that buckler and reaching is a challenge. I think what I'm reaching at here is understanding how the size of that offhand and the single-handed weapon affects the plays that we do. Fiore, for example, in his sword in one hand, is a big fan of this, right? Here, I'm coming up. Cool. What else does Fiore show? He likes this, right? And he seems to like this, right? Left shoulder, right shoulder, rising from the left. We don't see this rising cut with a one-handed sword, really. I mean, I can do this. But it's a false edge cut. If you think about how that jars in the hand when I strike, it's not good. It doesn't work super well to power that. Let's think about our sequence from earlier. I can make this cut wrist. I can make this cut elbow, but it doesn't add much. I can make this cut shoulder. That adds a bunch. I can make this cut shoulder with a lean. Or, for example, shoulder with a step. So I can generate that power. Let's try these false edge. Right, if I'm here, can I come? Wrist is weak, false edge, elbow. Can I even get this with the elbow? Barely. It ends up having to come. Shoulder I can do. Shoulder with the lean. Or with the step. Now what's interesting to me is that this awkward power generation, this snap, this is very much the classic SCA wrap cut, right? I get in here and throw this like snap, that flat, snap. Get close, jam up their weapons, snap. Clock them in the back of the head. Except this is useless against a good helm. You're not going to accomplish a whole lot. You're going to annoy them. you're going to jam the brow ridge into your face. Yay. But this, right, from point forward, can I? Yeah. But let's think about what path this takes. I'm here, and I can strike to behind the buckler, which is handy. Now let's think about the same thing on the other side. If I'm here, there we go. There's a bit of an answer. Point forward low. So what do? I roll down through larga, essentially building in a little Molinello through 133's prima, Fiore's Coda de Lunga de un Mano, or G, or the low angle guard here from Georgian. So variations on this strike, right? With the sword alone, right, I can emulate Fiore. I can emulate I-33. I can emulate Georgian. And the Bolognese doesn't seem to have this point back. We see this. This guard's got to be in there. It's in the Italian before it. I guess it would just be, right, we have, what would I call this? I mean, Fiore would call it Coda de Lunga de un Mano. I mean, I guess it could be, Cingaro Porta de Ferro Larga, just from here to here. If I make this play, buckler can stay here. And where's my logical pull? Right? I've got Becca Sesa, Becca Posa. Right. Lunga Alta is another one we have not played with. Right. I have this ending position, this, and this for that extended guard. Frack. I gotta go do some digging. I think I need to make my own index of all of Marazzo's positions and put labels to all of them, just so that I can get this straight in my head. Doesn't work for me to use stuff other people did. I have to do it for myself to make it work. Anyways, that's my rambles for today. I gotta go actually do some real sweat equity work now.